Alright, so Yellowjackets episode 4. Man, they keep ramping things up. Big reveals, weird self-aware flashbacks, and even more moss. But welcome back to Heavy Spoilers, your home for, heavy spoilers. And in this video, we're going to be discussing everything in episode 4, full-on spoilers, callbacks, and even more outlandish theories. Turn on some player, because Javi come back, you can blame it all on Natalie. Anyway, if you enjoy this video, hitting that like button is much appreciated, and subscribe to Heavy Spoilers to stay up to date on all of our Yellowjackets coverage. With all of that out of the way, thank you so much for clicking this. I'm your host, Jared. Now let's get into Yellowjackets episode 4. Alright, jumping right into the biggest shocker of this episode, Javi is alive? Who, what, how, why? I mean, we all kind of assumed he was out there somehow living off the land, but like, wow. Aside from him looking like he's aged, Travis is happy, Lottie is confused, Natalie dumbfounded, and Javi is just oblivious to everything. Taissa and Van are the two that actually found him running around the frozen forest, which all seems a bit coincidental, but then again, Van says this.
I don't understand why you won't see what's right in front of you.
Maybe we too are diving too deep, but the opening of this episode is Van essentially using the dual persona of Taissa to track down and map out all of the symbols marked on the trees, which she seems fairly successful with because whatever is driving Taissa is leading her exactly to these trees. Again, it could be the No Eyes Man, who we still don't have any concrete answers about. Upon each new symbol discovered, Van channels her inner Charlie Kelly and basically Pepe Sylvia's the symbols onto the already created map from episode 1, and is convinced that all of these symbols actually make out a larger symbol covering a majority of the forest. But one area of the map is still missing a symbol, and Van is convinced that a symbol will be found in that area. But instead of a symbol, this is where Taissa and Van find Javi, who I'm pretty sure is the one who was stealing the meat from the shed that Shauna was upset about at the start of this episode. But another weird thing is that the two find another tree stump that has melted snow around it and moss on it. Hashtag Mossgate, baby. Last week, we theorized that this constant discovery of melted snow, and now with Javi being alive, means that there may be some sort of underground springs, mining tunnels, something beneath the cabin in the forest that allowed for Javi to survive this long from the elements. Maybe Lottie's visions of a hatch and tunnels are in fact true. Because Van and Taissa aren't the only ones to pull some voodoo forest magic, because with Lottie saying Javi was still alive, back in episode 1, the group is now viewing both Lottie and Taissa as these, pun intended, visionaries. Plus, they think Lottie was the one responsible for the bird offering from last week, as we can see Travis eating some bird soup. This, of course, sets up the Lottie versus Natalie hunting competition at the heart of this episode, with Natalie tracking down the same white moose from last week, frozen in a nearby lake. This caught me by surprise because, I'm going to be honest, I thought the moose was more of a hallucination of good fortune to Natalie for returning Jackie's bones. However, with the antlers being the only thing frozen above the lake, this could have been a designation that Natalie was about to become the antler queen, but losing the moose to the depths of the lake was her losing her chance to be the leader. Lottie's side of the hunting competition is much more in the realm of what the is going on, because she essentially goes on a vision quest, listening to the forest and having the mysterious symbols talk to her. Hell, even Lottie comes close to losing faith.
Fuck me.
But she stumbles upon the same weird stump at the end of season 1, and it looks similar to the way that Travis's visions portrayed it in episode 1, candles and other trinkets decorating it. Lottie spills blood to the stump, which I think is the same dripping noise Mari had been hearing throughout these last couple episodes. Now Mari, with her belief in Lottie's guidance, may too be receiving visions of the future, or rather hearing the future. Lottie's visions hit an all-time strange as she finds all of these objects relating to Laura Lee, the plane, her teddy bear, and cross necklace, as she follows a beat from the Lost series, climbing down a hatch that leads into an elevator. This does lend a bit more evidence to my underground dwelling theory because the elevators don't look the same here. But Lottie's vision is almost that of a flashback with all of the Yellowjackets in a 90s-esque mall together. This setup is similar to the feast at the end of episode 2, as the other girls poke fun at Lottie's sticky bandits run of stealing clothing. This feels like both a memory, but also the same plane of existence that Laura Lee was in when Jackie saw her at the end of season 1. Heck, this could even be the weird in-between space Travis was trying to get to when he accidentally hanged himself, and Lottie is slowly figuring out how to transport here. It's hella trippy, though, that the Yellowjackets theme song faintly plays in the background. It's a great little detail, don't get me wrong, but I think that it has a much deeper meaning into the wilderness, or just the Yellowjacket show in general, isn't what we think it is. I'll talk more about this in the ending theory section, but luckily Lottie is inception kicked out of there and saved by her followers. Again, if we believe the moose antlers relate to that of whoever the antler queen will be, Lottie sitting in the tub mirrors how the moose was positioned in the lake. Anyway, Lottie and Natalie make up over a solid predator handshake, but the bonding is cut short by Javi's return, and everyone is against Natalie because she was the one that said he was dead, and everyone thinks now that Ty and Lottie are some sort of wilderness gods, even though both cases are sort of dumb luck at this point. Last week, we theorized that Taissa was going off to find Van because of the hand across the face in the mirror looked awfully similar to the masks that the pair wore at the Doom's Coming celebration in Season 1. And that is exactly correct, as it's revealed that the While You Were Streaming video rental store that was in Jessica's files belongs to Van. So before the episode ends on this cliffhanger, Taissa's dream walking, can we call it that, or did Marvel Studios trademark that? Whatever, we see Ty in the weird between state break into Jessica Roberts' apartment in New York, whom we can assume is no longer alive because of Misty's poisoning from season 1. Jessica was hired by Taissa to keep tabs on all of the surviving Yellowjackets, so she grabs the information for Van and unknowingly starts a road trip from New Jersey to New York, then to Ohio, which is roughly 8 to 9 hour drive. When she's picked up by a trucker, I honestly thought that this was going to be a large Marge situation where it wasn't real or that the trucker had nefarious motives, but nope, everything seems all by the book. However, there is a shot that lingers heavily on an upside-down nudie pen Taissa picks up off of the truck floor. With this lingering longer than a Cranberries song, I thought that there may be a deeper meaning here, but with the end reveal of Ty going off to see Van, I think it's solely a fun object that reminds her of Van, or even the two had a similar pen when they were teen Yellowjackets. Like I said, Taissa is dropped off at Van's video rental store called While You Were Streaming, which of course is a play on her favorite movie, or the one that she talked about in the wilderness, While You Were Sleeping. I don't think that this is coincidental, but rather has a connection to Taissa's sleepwalking. Again, that movie and Ty both deal with events happening while one of the main characters is asleep, so I'm guessing that the next episode we're going to be seeing things from Van's perspective and maybe learn more of the two's history and what led to this decade-long rift in present day. A couple things to note in Van's store, though, are some of the movies on the staff picks board. Mean Girls right next to Into the Wild. This is exactly the way the wilderness is turning, with the differing sides being made amongst the girls, while Into the Wild takes place in the Alaskan wilderness. Alaska, Canada, pretty close. Bound is a forbidden love story between two women, Ty and Van here. The Rosemary's Baby movie poster, when she walks in, ties into Shauna's baby, along with some of the maybe supernatural elements and Lottie's weird visions and followers. Hell, I could even see Lottie having something to do with Shauna's baby, especially if there are complications. And lastly, the It's a Wonderful Life poster, a movie about seeing the what-if scenario if you hadn't followed a certain path in life, which I would say heavily ties in with the Coach Scott what-if visions from last week. Again, this could be foreshadowing or just alluding to past events. However, Coach Scott does dissociate into another flashback, showing him and Paul again living together, as we find out that this is Ben's first kind of serious relationship, as opposed to Paul's, and it's heavily implied Ben is scared, but the two see a future together. This scene seems oddly placed in the episode, but I think it's because he's reading from his book again, of which he read last week, and it's called The Magnus. It's interesting because this novel again ties in with Greek myths, with the main character contemplating ending his own life and beginning to see visions unable to tell reality from fiction. This is what I take from Coach Scott here. He's dreaming of a life that could have been and is slowly getting closer and closer to ending his own life. Again, there's elements of It's a Wonderful Life trickled in here as well. Shauna, Jeff, and Callie all have an interesting journey throughout this episode, starting with the family still holding on to secrets, very much being separated as individuals rather than a close-knit family. Hell, even the framing of Jeff and Shauna here shows that they are at odds. But as this episode plays out, slowly discovering what the others are hiding, they surprisingly are closer than they've ever been at the end of this episode. And I think the biggest reason is that Shauna comes clean to Callie about all of her shenanigans, while allowing Callie to do the same, but more so threatening her if she doesn't. Because when Shauna learnt of Callie's lying, Adam's burnt license, and the bedroom protection, I bet Shauna was contemplating that very decision. In a weird dysfunctional family dynamic, this secluded talk is exactly what Shauna and Callie needed to bond. But there are a couple of subtle things to focus on in this conversation. Obviously, Shauna is nonchalant about ending someone's life, but alludes to Jeff's blackmail reasoning in an odd way.
Because we did things out there that we're really ashamed of.
Almost acting like it wasn't actually her back in the wilderness. The Yellowjackets were entirely different from who they are today. I mean, I want to say that there is far more to this stutter and glances. Again, they could have all been possessed by whatever Lottie was terrified of, and in reality, they had no control over their actions. Either way, they are one big happy family at the end of things, but still holding on to some secrets for themselves. Shauna never talking about how the van actually got back, and Callie has yet to disclose her secret dates with Jay, the police officer. So Jay has bound to come up in this next episode and cause a whole new ripple effect, while I truly think Shauna wasn't actually roping Callie in to be transparent, but instead she was doing this to get leverage down the road. Shauna is reverting to a wilderness game of chess, almost Survivor. Outwit, outplay, outlast, trying to slowly manipulate all of these people into positions that she can easily control. On a much lighter side of things is the whole story thread of Misty and Walter, two weirdos on a road trip date. It's kind of cute. There's a lot more evidence as to something happening to Misty's best friend, Crystal, in the wilderness, because when Walter mentions Misty is a good friend, she really takes it to heart.
It's pretty rare to have a friend who's relentlessly got your back.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm saying that she had to betray Crystal, her best friend, to survive the winter, but that stayed with her in a form of PTSD. But also the love of musicals is front and center, with Walter having all of the classics on cassette tape. Again, a little sus of him to have all of these ready at the go, but easily explains away why he knew she loved musicals. Some people pointed out in episode 3, but there's potentially more to Walter than meets the eye, potentially something evil. When talking last week, he mentions the two's blossoming relationship.
Maybe I'm just a bored Moriarty looking for his Sherlock.
So with Moriarty being the nefarious one, this may be the first subtle hint Walter has something up his sleeve, especially when it's revealed later during lunch that he's a millionaire after a scaffolding accident. I could see him pulling some strings to actually have this happen to him. He does seem a bit sketch to be honest. Misty plays the song Rainbow Tour from the 1978 musical Evita, which both ties back to the song Misty and Crystal are singing when they're doing chores in the cabin, and sort of refers to her relationship with Walter. In Evita, Eva Perón climbed the ladder of fame using men to get ahead, similar to Misty using Walter here to find her friend, which is a very loose interpretation of friend when we're talking about Natalie. The pair figure out Lottie's purple goon squad is close, selling honey at the local farmer's market under the name Sunshine Honey. Again, a reference to Lottie being the sun for which they follow, learning they are on Route 19 somewhere. Now, some people have theorized Lottie's compound is actually the same location where the Yellowjackets plane crashed in the wilderness, but the distances don't line up. Route 19, in comparison to New Jersey, is roughly in Pennsylvania or New York, while the wilderness was in the heart of the Canadian frontier. However, I do see Lottie purposely modeling it after the same landmarks of the wilderness: the lake, cabins, tree stump, all of it. The two check into a bed and breakfast, Walter using the alias John Wayne, the old American hero, but looking back at history, that's not necessarily the case, while Misty uses the alias Lady Malawan, which is a pseudonym for Agatha Christie, the accomplished mystery novelist, tying in with Misty's obsession with detective work. The Sparks' Angst in My Pants plays as the pair are literally the same person, mirroring one another, following the same nightly routine, down to even checking behind the beds. Now, the song implies that both are sexually frustrated, hinting at this blossoming into more of a potential romantic relationship down the road. But if Walter does in fact have a darker side to him, this could go either way. I mean, freak Misty out, or she embraces it because she too is far from a squeaky clean person.
All right then, keep your secrets.
Lottie in present day has one of the biggest question marks next to it because her visions are coming back after years, mentioning a couple of suspicious things to her therapist.
And it needs to stop. They need to stop. Because they're not real.
Much like Shauna, Lottie refers to her visions as they. But I don't think she's talking about her visions here. Instead, it's whoever the evil spirits are or whoever takes influence over them in the wilderness, of which we haven't yet seen. Again, they are not real, something Lottie talks about in her speech in the opening of this season.
Right now, there is a version of you that knows exactly who you really are and what you really want. It doesn't matter, right? Because it isn't real.
These might possibly be from a different plane of existence, but still have power in our world. Maybe doppelgangers of the wilderness crew. This may explain Javi just popping out of nowhere, especially when Lottie says her visions became something different. These visions continue when Lottie sees the Queen of Hearts with the eyes all crossed out when reading through gratitude entries. A startling sight at first that could mean a handful of things back in the wilderness. Playing cards were in fact in the cabin, so the Queen of Hearts designates who will be the Antler Queen, giving them power over the others and picking who will be sacrificed when food is scarce. Or whoever is given the card or draws the card is that week's sacrifice. Which would explain the pit girl probably drew this card and then was food for the others' survival. In an interview with Sophie Nellis, who plays teen Shauna, may have given this away actually.
If we were to pick that card to get killed, we'd be like, no, let's just give it to someone else. We can't kill her. Come on.
The weird thing is, in season 1, Travis or Natalie mentions that there are no queens in the deck, but then again, this season 2 poster cleverly has the same Queen of Hearts hidden. Whatever it is causes Lottie to again make a blood sacrifice in present day, saying the words, "Just be enough, please," being used as a way to harbor off evil spirits. Lottie and the others only had the illusion of escaping the evil, as they've always been with it, or it's always been following him, almost like teased when Natalie's talking here.
Almost like she wants to give the illusion of freedom so that you'll always come back.
And all of Lottie's cult is maybe an elaborate way of keeping whatever it is from coming after her and the original Yellowjackets. Because we learn in this episode, the members are to cut ties with their family members. So if anyone disappears, aka is sacrificed, their family will probably not come looking for them. Lottie knows way more than she's letting on, and Natalie stealing the keys is going to find something big in the locked closet next week. Maybe even the death records of previous members, and blows this whole thing out of the water when Misty shows up. But then again, Natalie surprisingly seems to be fitting in, very out of character from the beginning of this season, but she's wearing a little bit more purple here or there, opening up, and her and Lisa's relationship is growing. And I think it's solely because Lisa's home life reminds Natalie of her own when she was a teen. It's nice to see the pair really helping one another, with Natalie saving her fish, her goldfish, the 14th gilly, and Natalie pushing away the shot to show that she is now sober. At Lisa's mother's, it looks like she may be moving though. There's moving boxes all over the house. So maybe Lottie's cult is going to be the only family that Lisa has moving forward. But also, the little red umbrella on all of the boxes could be a reference to the 2010 novel The Red Umbrella, which starts with a teen girl wanting independence from her overbearing mother and seeks this independence against her mother's wishes. A bit of a stretch, maybe a little. The only other thing of note is Akila finding the mouse and keeping it as a pet. This is food. I mean, they're starving, and she's probably going to feed this thing to keep it alive. So I could see these kind of falling as wilderness violations, if you will, and down the road, she'll be on the chopping block. So we'll see. But before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on a couple of theories. It's theory time. I'm still sticking by the mine shaft underground tunnels abandoned mining operation theory we touched on last week. I mean, where else was Javi hiding this whole time to escape the elements and survive? And we even see Lottie in a weird dream state go down a hatch into a tunnel similar to the ones in her visions from season 1. It could even be a whole cabin in the woods situation where they are being watched by someone else. All of this caused the plane to go down, would explain Javi being released back to the group, and the weird static transitions between some scenes makes me feel like somebody's watching TV. Like, all of this is a television program, like think the Truman Show. The second one is that there is an underworld, like a mirror world, some sort of supernatural plane of existence where different versions of everyone exist. Think like a parallel universe or multiverse theory. Because the mysterious symbol does look like someone is being lowered through the ground into somewhere else. And there are tons of references to doubles or mirrored images in this episode. Shauna and Jeff in the kitchen, Shauna mirrored in Callie's room, Misty and Walter's whole bed and breakfast montage, Taissa dreamwalking with her double, the Queen of Hearts card, the pen being flipped upside down, and a few other things I probably missed. It's a duality of two worlds, and Lottie's ritual didn't actually find Javi, but rather reached into that other world and pulled that Javi in. This is why he's hella confused when he gets back to the cabin. The symbol could be a marker to do this because it's also drawn on Simone's hand because Taissa didn't know if she would survive or not. And the what-if scenario of Coach Scott from last episode is actually his life in that other world, throwing that It's a Wonderful Life poster reference into the mix. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, that has been this week's Theories. Theory time. None of this is real. Remember what Lottie said. Anyway, that is episode 4 of season 2. At this point, I have no idea what to think. Right when I think I have something figured out, there's a splinter into even more potential supernatural wilderness evils and questions that I need answers to. Like, does Van have a secret to Taissa's second persona? How the heck did Javi survive and where, along with Lottie's rituals in present day? The one thing I am convinced of is that there is some sort of underground bunker, mine, other mirror underworld that I hope we find out more about sooner rather than later. But let us know your best theories or ideas or just thoughts on this episode of what the heck is going on. Also, this episode we got a little bit early with some unfinished VFX, so if anything is drastically different, please let us know. And I'll let you know, we're currently running a competition giving away 3 copies of the Superman collection on the 15th of April, and all you gotta do to get a chance of winning this is like this video, subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below on your thoughts of Yellowjackets Episode 4. We pick the comments at random at the end of every single month, and the winners of last month are on screen right now. So if that's you, message us on Twitter at Heavy Spoilers. If you want something else to watch, be sure to check out some of our other cool videos right over there. We're cranking them out, folks. You keep watching, we keep making. But with all of that out of the way, thank you so much for your constant support. I've been Jared. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and peace.